The invasion of Poland and the start of the war. The invasion of Poland by Germany on September 1, 1939, marked the start of World War II. This action was the culmination of Hitler's aggressive foreign policies and expansionist ambitions. On September 1, 1939, Germany launched a surprise attack on Poland, using a combination of tanks, airplanes, and infantry. The Polish military was quickly overwhelmed, and within a few weeks, Poland was occupied by German forces. The invasion of Poland was a clear violation of the Treaty of Versailles and the international community's efforts to maintain peace. This marked the official start of World War II, which would eventually involve most of the world's nations and lead to the deaths of millions of people. The invasion of Poland was a significant turning point in the history of the world, as it marked the start of a devastating global conflict that would reshape the political and social landscape of the world for decades to come. The events leading up to the German invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. In the 1930s, Europe was a powder keg of tension and uncertainty. The Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I, had imposed heavy penalties on Germany, and the country was struggling to rebuild. In 1933, a new leader came to power in Germany, a man named Adolf Hitler, who promised to restore the country to its former glory. These actions were met with appeasement from the other European powers, who hoped to avoid another war. But Hitler was not satisfied. He set his sights on Poland, which he saw as a historical German territory. On August 23, 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which divided Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. With the Soviet Union on his side, Hitler felt confident in his ability to invade Poland. On September 1, 1939, German forces invaded Poland from the west, north, and south. The Polish army was quickly overwhelmed, and within a matter of weeks, Poland was under German control. The invasion of Poland was the spark that ignited World War II. On September 3, 1939, Britain and France declared war on Germany. The events leading up to the German invasion of Poland were a tragic and fateful turning point in world history. It's a reminder that we must always remain vigilant against the forces of aggression and tyranny. The declarations of war by France and the United Kingdom, and the beginning of the European theater of the war. On September 3, 1939, following the German invasion of Poland, France and the United Kingdom declared war on Germany. This marked the official start of World War II in Europe. The French and British mobilized their armies and prepared for war. However, the early months of the war, known as the Phony War or Sitzkrieg, were relatively quiet on the Western Front. Both sides were waiting for the other to make the first move. In April 1940, Germany launched a surprise attack on Denmark and Norway, quickly conquering both countries. This was followed by the invasion of the Low Countries, Belgium, Netherlands and France in May. The fall of France marked the end of the Western Front and the beginning of the European theater of the war. It also marked the start of the blitzkrieg tactics employed by Germany that led to the quick defeat of many European countries. The war in Europe would continue for another 5 years, until the eventual surrender of Germany in 1945. The declarations of war by France and the United Kingdom, and the subsequent events, marked the beginning of the deadliest conflict in human history. The devastation caused by World War II would change the world forever. The War in Europe. The War in Europe, also known as the European theater of World War II, began with the German invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. This prompted the declarations of war by France and the United Kingdom on September 3, 1939, and marked the official start of the war in Europe. During the early months of the war, known as the Phony War or Sitzkrieg, both sides were waiting for the other to make the first move. The war in Europe officially ended on May 8, 1945, with the unconditional surrender of Germany. However, the devastation caused by the war would change the face of Europe forever. The war resulted in the deaths of millions of people and the displacement of millions more. It also led to the creation of the United Nations and the establishment of the State of Israel. The major battles and campaigns of the European theater, including the Battle of Britain, the Battle of Stalingrad, and the D-Day invasion. The European theater of World War II was marked by several major battles and campaigns that had significant impact on the outcome of the war. 1. The Battle of Britain. This was a series of air battles fought between the Royal Air Force, RAF, and the German Luftwaffe in 1940. 2. The Germans aimed to gain air superiority in preparation for an invasion of Britain, but the RAF was able to successfully defend the country and force the Germans to abandon their plans for invasion. 3. The Battle of Stalingrad. This was a major turning point in the war on the Eastern Front. 4. The German army had advanced deep into Soviet territory and were closing in on the city of Stalingrad. 5. However, the Soviet Union managed to launch a counteroffensive and encircle the German army, trapping them in the city. The role of the Soviet Union in the war, including the Battle of Moscow and the Battle of Kursk. The Eastern Front of World War II was one of the most brutal and devastating theaters of the war. It was here that the Soviet Union and Germany fought some of the largest and bloodiest battles in history. In June of 1941, Germany launched a surprise attack on the Soviet Union, known as Operation Barbarossa. The German army made significant gains in the early stages of the invasion, pushing deep into Soviet territory. But the Soviet Union was able to mount a strong resistance, and eventually launch a counteroffensive. One of the first major battles that played a crucial role in the Soviet Union's resistance was the Battle of Moscow. The German army had reached the outskirts of the city and were closing in. But the Soviet Union was able to launch a counteroffensive and push the German army back, saving the capital and dealing a significant blow to the German army. Another major battle that played a crucial role in the Soviet Union's victory was the Battle of Kursk. This was the largest tank battle in history, fought in 1943. The battle ended in a Soviet victory, with the German army suffering heavy losses and effectively ending their ability to launch large-scale offensives on the Eastern Front. The role of the Soviet Union in the war was critical in slowing and eventually halting the German advance. The Battle of Moscow and the Battle of Kursk were just two examples of the sacrifices and victories of the Soviet people in the war. The fall of Germany and the end of the war in Europe on May 8, 1945. The fall of Germany and the end of the war in Europe on May 8, 1945, marked the end of one of the darkest periods in human history. The D-Day invasion in June of 1944 was a major turning point, as the Allies were able to establish a foothold in Europe and begin pushing the German army back on multiple fronts. As the Allies continued to push into Germany, the final major battle of the war in Europe was the Battle of Berlin. The Soviet Union, under the command of Marshal Zhukov, launched a massive assault on the city, and after a brutal street-by-street fight, the city fell on May 2, 1945. On May 7, 1945, German General Alfred Jodl signed the Instrument of Surrender in a schoolhouse in Reims, France. The surrender was made official the next day, May 8, in Berlin, where Soviet Marshal Zhukov accepted the German surrender on behalf of the Allies. This day is celebrated as Victory in Europe Day, or V-Day, marking the end of the war in Europe. Millions of people lost their lives in the war, and the world would never be the same again. We remember the sacrifices of the brave men and women who fought to bring an end to this dark period in history. Thank you for watching, and we hope you have a better understanding of the important role of the Soviet Union in World War II.